A dog is the only thing on earth that loves you more than he loves himself.
Everybody wants their dog to be man's best friend. And the only way that will happen is if there's a mutual respect, that friendship goes both ways.
Due to the labeling of dogs as pit bulls, dogs with black heads and muscular builds are overpopulating the shelters, waiting for a forever home. Even though dogs identified as pit bulls have an 83.9% passing rate on temperament tests, compared to the 77% passing rate of the general dog population, they are often stereotyped as dangerous dogs.
The top 3 dog breeds, I think the University of Pennsylvania put a study out, and the top 3 that were going to bite you were a Chihuahua, a Dachshund, and a Jack Russell Terrier. The National Society for Temperament Testing or whatever put out a thing, and like pit bulls are 85% of them are passing temp tests.
So my personal and professional opinion of pit bulls is going to be the same. We have worked with them for a lot of years. We've worked with a lot of rescues. We've worked with the shelter. I have done personal fostering of pit bulls, so I have a little one-on-one experience with that too. I have family members that own pit bulls. A lot of my staff owns pit bulls, and all pit bull varieties. Whether it's Staffordshire or Cane Corso or what have you. But I think they're great dogs. I think they're definitely misunderstood. I think that people are used to seeing the bad things like the fighting and all that, but that's not your average dog. Your average pit bull that comes in here hops up in my lap, it gives me kisses, it slobbers all over me, it's excited, it wags its tail, it wants to meet and greet everyone that's in here. And I mean, they have no more behavior issues than any other breed that we deal with. A lot of them are, I would say, less likely to bite or be aggressive than a lot of the other breeds that we deal with. I think part of it is the person and how much they're willing to work with the pet and give it a good home and socialize it.
There are a multitude of pit bull rescues based in Indianapolis, but Casa del Toro has been around the longest. They have been educating the public and rescuing dogs for years.
Casa del Toro was started in 1997 as a private rescue. The woman who started it wanted to find a way to rehabilitate dogs. We incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit in 2010. It gives a larger sense of legitimacy to people who would want to donate to our rescue. It, of course, is a special designation by the IRS, the United States government, and the state government to operate as a business.
We are fortunate to be in our 4th year as a nonprofit, but our 17th year as a rescue. We're the oldest pit bull rescue in the state. We have the largest number of dogs that come through our doors. We are doing that with a very small network. So the more volunteers that we have, the more work we could do. This year, we just this week rescued our 4th entire litter of puppies. Pit bulls go into heat 3 times a year, and they have very large litters, 12, 15 dogs at a time. You compare that to a Basenji that has 4 puppies per litter, we have a much larger problem with pit bulls showing up at our shelters. We have pulled 70 dogs to date, and if we had more volunteers in our network, we'd actually be able to pull more. Our goal is in 5 years is to have a physical building to have a rescue, and the only way we'll get from here to there is by manpower. We have the talent, we have the money, we have the name recognition, we have the reputation. We need the manpower, and that's how more volunteers could help us rescue more pit bulls. My goal would be that any dog that somebody calls a pit bull would have the opportunity to have a good home, because if you call it a pit bull, then it is. And it doesn't really matter what that dog looks like. We do not take surrenders. We pull from animal control and other facilities throughout Indianapolis and the surrounding areas. We just, as they do temperament tests in animals that don't do well in a shelter environment, but we do see the potential in them to be rehabilitated or, be rehomed. We pull them into our foster situation where we can train them, rehabilitate them, socialize them, and just get them prepared while we find the perfect home for them. We believe that most dogs are good dogs, and we just want to find a good home for them.
Pit bull means something different to lots of different people. Those of us who are in the rescue world, especially those of us who rescue pit bulls, we've got one image in our mind, and this, it's our fuzzy buddies, it's our big-headed dogs with big tongues and big smiles and big hearts. People who have not encountered pit bulls in their lives are probably more predisposed to have a negative connotation to that. putting the two words together, pit and bull, that's not a really positive phraseology. That already sounds scary off the bat. To take that idea and then couple that with the experience that I have when I go to the shelter. Indianapolis Animal Care and Control is the largest shelter in the state. It is an open admission shelter. They have to take everything that comes to its door. And so there could be anywhere from 3, 4, 5, maybe 600 dogs at a time. The dogs all have a kennel card, and the kennel card will say dog's basic information. How old's this dog? What color is this dog? What sex is this dog? How did this dog come to the shelter? Was it an own a surrender? Was it a stray? Was it a confiscate? And then I'll have a breed description. And so the shelter is bound. They have to put a breed description there. The adoption websites that we couple with that will put our adoptable dogs out onto the internet for us, they require that we put a label on the dog as well. When you walk down the rows, German Shepherd mix, Labrador mix, Pit Bull, Pit Bull, Pit Bull, Pit Bull mix, Pit Bull, Pit Bull, Pit Bull. None of these dogs look the same. Not only are they not the same sex, they're not the same age, they're not the same color. They all have different lengths of short hair. All of their ears are shaped differently, whether they're cut off or they're natural. Their jowls are shaped differently. Their physical structures are shaped differently. All these dogs differ, but they're all labeled the same way. And for me, that's really hard to accept that term pit bull, kind of like a face value thing. So again, as a fan of the English language and as the person that I am, I'm not a big fan of the term pit bull. But that's the popular nomenclature in which people use. So I use the same words too.
Pit bull is not a breed of dog. It is a generic term for any medium or large-sized dog with a black head, short hair, and muscular build.
The American Kennel Club does not identify the pit bull as a breed.
So many breeds or dogs that fall under pit bull. It's the Dogo Argentinos, American Pit Bull, Staffordshires. They generally have the same kind of build, big stocky head. There's so many different ones that fit in the same area. They're terriers. It's not necessarily a pit bull.
There are pit bulls. There's your American pit bull, but there's a lot of like what we call bully breeds. A lot of them look the same. If you line up picture by picture and size by size and action by action, they're all going to look the same, but they're not all pit bulls. I think pit bull is more of like an American type thing.
Because of the stereotyping of dogs labeled as pit bulls, many of these dogs spend an extended amount of time in the shelter. The prolonged amount of time in the kennel stresses out the dogs.
Kennel stress is literally just stress exhibited because a dog is put in a shelter setting. When an animal is taken to the shelter, Indianapolis Animal Care and Control, they are checked in, and then after that first day, they are given 4 days of a hold period. And that time allows the owner to come and find them and reclaim them. But more importantly, it allows that dog's cortisol levels to lower. And cortisol is your body's hormone response to stress. Your adrenaline is gonna increase your heart rate. Your cortisol is gonna lower your pain threshold. It is proven that after 72 hours, the cortisol level in any mammal will decrease. What kennel stress is not only is it stressful for an animal to come into the shelter, being there prolonged will drive an animal insane, just like putting somebody in solitary confinement. Eventually that person will harm themselves just to get beat to have human interaction. It varies. Some dogs can do well in a kennel environment for months on end. Other dogs won't make it after their 5 days. Shelter is very stressful because it's an abnormal schedule. It's really noisy all the time. At Indianapolis Animal Care and Control, every time somebody surrenders a dog, a giant bell ringer goes off through the entire building. It smells bad. There's a lot of bleach and hard chemicals that are used to clean shelters, and dogs have exponentially more sensitive scent than humans do. And then it's boredom. Dogs will start to mutilate themselves, just kind of how birds like picking their own feathers. Dogs will start to present really negative behaviors at the kennel. So a dog that may be totally nice, because it's never getting interacted with and nobody's ever paying attention to it, may start jumping at the cage, thrashing at the cage, barking at the cage, biting at the cage. And none of this is saying that if you open the door, the dog's gonna get you. but it's the only way that the dog knows how to communicate that it's miserable in the state that it's in. Because the city shelter has to accept every animal, let's say a drug bust happens and the dogs on site are confiscated because everybody in the household goes to jail. Well, those dogs become property and they go to the city shelter. And because they are part of property, they cannot be handled by just anybody. Because if they were to be hurt while they're there, or if they were to hurt somebody while they're there, that impacts the court case that they're a part of. So there are dogs that would be pit bulls that would be taken to the shelter and left for 4 to 8 months while their court case is wrapped up in litigation. During those 4 to 8 months, the dogs are never taken outside. The only time they're taken out of their metal box is when their box is cleaned, and then they're put right back into it. And that's actually why we started our kennel enrichment program, was specifically to help those dogs that never get human interaction.
It's just a beautiful thing to watch these dogs just get the opportunity to be dogs, because in a shelter setting it just doesn't happen that way. CDT's been involved with IACC since before I came here. I think they started out volunteering and then the kennel enrichment program sort of blossomed out of that. And it's been phenomenal. The only thing holding the enrichment program back is lack of volunteers. They need more people to really make a difference. They're still dogs. No matter what breed you're looking at, mixed breed dogs, they're still just dogs. And when you break it down to the basic level, I don't think breed has a lot to do with whether I'm gonna like a dog or not. It's that dog's personality. And I have been here at the shelter for almost 3 years. I've never had a pit bull try to bite me. So when I hear people say they're aggressive, I don't know what that means because I haven't seen it personally.
All dogs, including pit bulls, are individuals.
Treating them as such, providing them with the care, training, and supervision they require,
And judging them by their actions, not by their DNA or their physical appearance,
is the best way to ensure that dogs and people can continue to share safe and happy lives.
together.
Are you afraid of pit bulls?
No. Why? Because I love them. Because they're sweet. They're sweet and very